Hey friends, I thought I'd simmer on this topic for a couple days, but I'll just do it now. Bungie sunsetting. I think Astrocross called it sunrising, so I'll call it sunrising. So that's what I'm covering today. Also, Dado's apology video, chef's kiss. That was so funny. So for those out of the loop, any item in your vault that is 1600 in the next expansion will be modern power level. Probably at the end of this vid, I'm going to go through my Destiny item manager and I'm going to show you all the sunset weapons I kept, as well as my free-to-play account, what sunset weapons I kept. So stay tuned for that, but for now, I have to start this all the way at the beginning, which was, it wasn't the idea of sunsetting that was bad, it was the proposed implementation. So in other MMOs, power creep is a normal phenomenon. Every season, every expansion, what you consider strong now is going to be power creep. There is going to be something more strong available in the new expansion, whether that's in the form of some arbitrary power level or maybe a more powerful perk, like Rampage versus Golden Tricorn. Rampage is a 10% bonus to damage. Golden Tricorn is a 15% damage for the exact same reason of just killing an enemy. So naturally, in an MMO, the devs need to make new loot more enticing, so they make it more powerful. The reason for the inclusion of something like an arbitrary power level, like 1810, 1820, 1830, is so that our gear doesn't become so powerful with better perks that it makes designing PvE encounters impossible. Otherwise, honestly, the only solution is enemies become bullet sponges, and players don't really enjoy that. But at the same time, loot does have to be more powerful to create some sort of incentive for extrinsic style players that need rewards to motivate them to play. Intrinsic players don't care about the reward, they just play because they find the game fun. But at the end of the day, the harsh truth is that a lot of extrinsic players pay the bills and add to the player population. So Bungie's original proposed idea with sunsetting was that endgame activities would have some arbitrary power limit and old items wouldn't be able to meet that arbitrary power limit. But in normal player versus player and normal strikes, old items would be accessible, which meant that non-power level enabled PvP has to deal with the strongest loot of all time, all the time. As opposed to a different balancing scheme with, I don't know, balancing an outlier like Revoker, to be fair, and they literally did that in this new expansion, where they take the Master of Arms perk on the Recluse and make it, instead of 50%, 15% like it should have been years ago. I want you to think about how that boardroom meeting, how an employee or maybe a boss was pitching this idea of sunsetting to the employees. They'd be saying something like, so Diablo has these seasons, it resets every time, and the players grind for stuff. So the Destiny players will want to regrind for their gear. It helps prevent power creep, etc. That's not an actual quote, but that conclusion leads me to some similar conversation had to be had. I'm reading between the lines here. But regardless, it ultimately ended up in the decision that they made, which was they were going to do some form of sunsetting in a game without trading or forms of determinism. Ultimately, later they had crafting, which was good, but that also had a lot of obvious L's. I'm not trying to defend crafting here. It has its pros and cons. And the con is when people get all of their crafting patterns, they don't really want to do the raid. But that's also an entirely different rabbit hole of intrinsic versus extrinsic. But regardless, at the time sunsetting was announced, I'm surprised we didn't have more discourse from Bungie about determinism, crafting, or trading, etc. to offset the L's of sunsetting. The most significant of which is just it disrespects players' time investment. How do you onboard new players when they eventually realize that any time invested into the game is on a treadmill and all of their effort is for nothing? It's not an obvious answer, and this discussion is still being had to this day. I just need to give y'all the backstory of this conversation so that you can realize why some players are feeling burned for deleting old items in their vault, even though I'm going to say 95% of those items were power crept anyway. Me personally, I only deleted those items when they were truly power crept. Otherwise, I kept them as a nuclear option for if they were ever used against me in the Rumble playlist. Otherwise, the other sunset gear I kept was because it was just a trophy or something I was proud of earning. And there weren't that many of them. The only ones I can think of, and you've seen it in the background gameplay, is Kindled Orchid with Rampage Kill Clip for 2 taps on 6 Resilience, or if you have Surges, anybody. NEFD, which is an SMG with crazy base stats and kill clip. And then, of course, the No Feeling Scout Rifle, which is a 180 RPM with box breathing. That is the only one that exists in the energy slot, which means you can use it with things like conditional finality, etc. Those are the only ones I kept. However, there were also auto rifles that feature Zen Moment and a kill perk, as well as a couple other niche weapons, which filled that 5% I talked about. I'm serious here, 95% of those sunset weapons have been power crept. A lot of the Twitter posts I have for like, show me your best sunset weapon, a lot of them are like, oh, the chains are off. I'm finally able to use my steel feather repeater with slideways and vorpal weapon. The crucible's about to fear me. It's like, all right, dude, use that. I'm not denying there are some unique roles that are unobtainable, as well as some powerful roles that are better than the other alternatives. But I really do feel like that probably falls within about 5%. Which means that likely it will only take a couple seasons of Bungie reissuing that gear, as well as making new gear that features similar perk combos and even power creeping that gear to begin with. So it's a non-issue, in my opinion. Yes, at the end of the day, your time was disrespected. You spent time to grind for a specific role, and you deleted it because you thought it was useless in Trials of Osiris, but now it's available again. While that does suck, and I know not all of us play this game full time, we have other obligations, etc. Bungie learned their lesson, and now they have more deterministic avenues, which means getting the power creep version of your favorite weapon is probably going to be more deterministic than ever, and less of a time investment than it originally was, which is a major W for you, and more importantly, new players to this game, which mean more population, which means you probably have a better time playing this game in the first place. So if you think big picture here, it's a W, despite your personal time investment being disrespected. And I do feel for you. I've been there. But I think big picture, it's worth just taking the L on this one. But to reiterate why this isn't a problem when I play other MMOs like Phantasy Star, every season, those items get power crept, and I spend the same amount of time running some limited time event quest or something like that to get new powerful gear to run similar endgame activities. That's just how the game is played. But the reason why it doesn't feel like a disrespect of my time is because they have a trading system, which means if I take my player skill and go to a new activity to farm a new powerful item, I can just sell that and buy exactly what I want and be back up to speed really soon, and then use that even more powerful gear to farm even more, sell more items, and then buy old cosmetic items to make my character look cute as fuck. And that to me is motivation enough, which is why I don't care about that system. However, Destiny doesn't have trading, so ultimately I do feel like my time is disrespected, but they're doing a better job of compromising in recent years, and I really do think they've made strides in that. So the fact that they're resetting sunsetting sounds kind of awesome to me, and I'm excited what they do in the future. Will they have trading one day? Probably not, but I feel like this compromise is really, really close to something that I like, but what do I know? I'm a full-time content creator. However, I also play multiple accounts and have a lot of casual friends and family members that also play this game, so I hear their complaints too. I think they're getting really close to a compromise, and I'm curious what their ultimate solution is going to be looking past the final shape and into episodes. I'm super curious. I don't even know what the comment section is going to look like in this video. Just kind of airing out my thoughts. So this is my main account's Destiny item manager. You can see if I type in is sunset, only a couple items pop up, like the Redrix's broadsword with the 5500 emblem. That's a trophy. We have the NEFD snapshot kill clip. If I knew back then, I would have taken Zen Moment. But honestly, not anticipating the Peacekeeper changes, snapshot is pretty good. Then we have Tatar Gaze, which is the poster child of sunsetting because I farm relentlessly for a 5 out of 5 perfect version because I found kill chaining to be just that fun. Similarly, we have the Kindled Orchid with Kill Clip Rampage. Have a Mindbender's Ambition with Threat Detector Quick Draw. Can't get that combo anymore. A No Feeling Scout Rifle with Rapid Hit and Box Breathing. Only one in the energy slot. Not Forgotten is going to be relevant again because it has Zen Moment in the energy slot. Luna's Howl cannot get that. And then finally, a trophy weapon, Volita D, as well as another trophy weapon, the Button. Let's move on to my free-to-play. Okay, now on my free-to-play, we have a lot. Starting with an Anti-Op D, I've made a video on this with high-impact reserves, which you can think of as the old version of Target Lock. Hard Truths with Snapshot Kill Clip. An Unobtainable Bite of the Fox with Hip Fire and Opening Shot, and yes, I can assure you on mouse and keyboard, this feels very pinpoint. Got an Analana D with Moving Target Dynamic Sway. I think Dynamic Sway is kind of a bait perk on there. Malignant I kept just because Air Assault wasn't buffed at the time, but now it is. Better Devils with Rangefinder Explosive Payload. I still find Rangefinder to be good on some weapons, like for example the Multi-Mock. I find it very valuable on. But on Better Devils, probably not. Another Bite of the Fox. Blasphemer, you can actually obtain a similar roll. Breachlight with Rampage is very good because it can 2-burst. Bygone, same exact thing. With high impact reserves at the very, very bottom. This is a Penguin roll. You can 2-burst at the bottom, or just use Rampage and 2-burst after a kill. Carmel's Dagger could have had Zen Moment, so I feel kind of burned there. But it does have Drop Mag with Threat Detector and Kill Clip, which is an information perk, and that feels awesome. It's really difficult to get Opening Shot on a Scout Rifle, 150 RPM. Does not compute Hazard. Duke, Rangefinder Kill Clip, that's okay. Dustrock Blues is a classic. I don't really feel like this is a good roll, but it's a trophy. Einstein D, Zen Moment, Firmly Planted. It's decent, but I feel like Blast Furnace is going to knock it out of the park. Same with Elsie's Rifle. Go figure. I'm probably deleting 2 of those. Halfdan, it's a little bit power crept. It's very power crept. Long Shadow, Hipfire, but it's obtainable from Dares. Nightshade, you can get the new version, which is Strand. It's okay, I guess. No turning back. Curated roll, kind of pointless. Parcel of Stardust, power crept. Pillager, looks amazing. Listen to some war music. Regix's Broadsword, this is probably better than my mains. Provoker's going to be a problem if they don't change it. Smuggler's Word, Kill Clip matters a lot on this. This one's amazing. This is DeFizzle's exact spare rations. Stole it from him. This is the Gambit spare rations. Pretty good. Firmly Planted Hipfire. It's going to be okay. 10 paces can surprisingly get Slide Shot, Opening Shot, or something like that, and it's amazing. I don't know if Rangefinder does anything on a bow. Shotguns. And then an Explosive Payload Scout Rifle. I don't even think that 3-taps. Soul Survivor is hard power crept by Mercurial Overreach. It's worse in every single stat category. Breath of the Dragon, Zen Moment Kill Clip. It looks cool, but it's kind of bad. Ganora's Axe. This is a perfect Tatara Gaze. Don't tell True Vanguard I still own an Anonymous Autumn. It's a bow. Bad Reputation, Shrek movie. Badlander. This used to actually be kind of formidable and Forsaken. Beloved is craftable. This is trash. Claws of the Wolf, Slide Shot Kill Clip. That one I could probably mess with Gear Falcon, except this free-to-play account doesn't own the Gear Falcon Hauberk. It owns the Rain of Fire, kind of another illegal item. These Errantills are crazy. Do not tell Lego that I own these, though he might also own something better. Fade Christ Bow is a Gambit Sniper. Luckily, no one queues that anymore. Last Hope, Rangefinder Zen Moment. Last Man Standing, Elite 4K has one with Hipfire and 1-2 Punch as well as Opening Shot. This is a goat shotgun. It's definitely worth keeping as a trophy. Luna's Howl is now craftable. Sir Ingredient. Misfit sounds like an A10 Warthog. Not Forgotten's relevant. Arwing's Maul Power Crept. Persuader Power Crept, but also looks very cool. Prolium. I don't know if this one's Power Crept yet. However, the Garden of Salvation fusion rifle is also pretty good. Retold Tail no longer has quick draw and slide shot. Keep that if you got it. That's a bow, I guess. 15 zoom, 17 zoom, something like that. I think this one can get Zen Moment. Also, Adaptive Frame is kind of trash right now. I'm not saying delete it, but it does have Zen Moment right now. So, it's way better. Power Crept, Power Crept. I don't even know why I kept that one. This one looks okay. This is a very rare gun. I don't know anybody who kept this. Drewski. Power Crept. Bad archetype, but also kind of a trophy. I'm not even going through these power weapons. I hope this gives you an example of just like, majority of the time, nobody kept anything that was even worth considering. 95% of these rolls are trash. However, for those 5% and those trophies, be happy you kept them, and be happy Dado didn't convince you to delete them. I really loved that video. Anyway, friends, I will see you in the next one. I really had no vision for this video and kind of just bumbled around, but I hope it made sense and was entertaining despite that. See y'all in the next.